Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode of NXT Los, the weekly NXT post show here at BC WrestlePod. My name is Mikey, El Jefe of BC WrestlePod, and I am rocking it solo tonight. My other co host, who is normally with me, Kilt, is currently on vacation, but I hope you are enjoying your vacation, bud. And I look forward to seeing you, well, in 2 weeks when I come back from my vacation starting next week. But I'm super excited. I think this is going to be a really fun episode to review because this is not only is it the Tuesday, June 23rd edition of NXT, but this is the go home before Great American Bash happening this Sunday. So I will not only be talking about the episode, but I will also be doing my predictions for the Great American Bash happening this Sunday, June 28th. So it should be a lot of fun. Y'all already know the drill. We go live. You can find your favorite streaming site to see us live or our edited videos that go up the following day. Social medias at BC WrestlePod. Shop is at bcwrestlepodshop.fourthwall.com. And we have a coffee bot that helps us keep the lights on, especially during the summer when we got lots of things going on. So I don't want to waste no time. Let's just get into it. We're going to start off with the June 23rd edition of NXT. We kick things off with Robert Stone, our GM, and our NXT champion, Tony D'Angelo. Kind of starting things off a little bit, Mr. Stone wants the contract signing between him and Naraku for their match at Great American Bash to go off without a hitch, which then has Aaron Rourke, our current WWE Evolve champion, come in, and Tony D'Angelo gives him some words of, praise, saying he's heard great things about him, he's doing good, and Aaron Rourke appreciates it, and which leads us into our first official match of the night. For the Men's Evolve Championship, we have Aaron Rourke defending the title against Tristan Angels. To kind of recap how we got this match last week, because of the continuing storyline between Tristan Angels and Shiloh Hill from the Mr. NXT pageant, and Aaron Rourke being one of the judges, Aaron and Tristan kind of went back a little back and forth last week in a backstage segment, and Aaron Rourke would be willing to shut up Tristan. And Tristan said that he would be willing to fight Aaron as long as he puts the Evolve Championship on the line. And that's exactly what Aaron Rourke did. I thought this was a really fun match, again, for the NXT audience who hasn't seen Aaron Rourke quite yet. I think he's a really fun character. I think he's a really good wrestler because I've been following him on the independents. And his work at Evolve is really good. And I really do love Aaron Rourke as a champion, our Evolve champion. And it's really fun to watch him in Evolve as well. Now, during this match, we would get two distractions. We got Shiloh Hill's laugh kind of from the beginning of his entrance music play towards the middle of this match. And then towards the end, Tristan Angels gets grabbed from underneath the ring, which we all know is Shiloh Hill, which was enough of a distraction for Aaron to hit the Molly Whirl and to pick up the victory and retain the Men's Evolve Championship. Again, I thought this was a really fun match. It's really fun to see, people who have never seen Aaron Rourke before, who either don't watch Evolve or aren't familiar with his work on the independent wrestling scene. I think Aaron is so much fun here in NXT and in Evolve, and I look forward to his reign as Evolve champion. Honestly, he brings something different, and I love it. But this would not be the last we would hear from Tristan Angels, because Silo Hill would come up later and make something official for Great American Bash, but we're going to get into that a little bit later. After our opening match, we cut backstage in which Naraku has officially signed the contract, and he hands it to Tony D'Angelo. And so when Tony opens the contract, he gets fireballed in the face for his troubles, which then prompts the medical team to put Tony in a ambulance with him bandaged up to take it to the hospital to deal with those burns. And so officially Naraku has turned, he was kind of leaning towards heel. We knew it was coming, but this is the first stepping stone that makes Naraku the first official heel. And this is the NXT version of the House of Torture shenanigans we gonna be getting. So Naraku is officially to heel, and this kind of set that up into motion. Really fun stuff. I really enjoyed it. This was fun, and this would, come back. Naraku thought this was it. but it would come to bite him in the butt a little bit later in the show, which we'll talk about when we get there. Into our next segment, we have a face to face between Dion Lennox and Mr. Saquon Sugars. Now, if you have been following our show for the last couple of weeks, you have heard Kilt and I talk about how much we really love Saquon Sugars and how this babyface run for him is about to be really good. And this was really fun. So, it this back and forth is segment, Saquon and Dion would trade blows, with Saquon telling Dion that there is no dark state without Saquon Sugars. You guys asked me to be a part of the group. Dion trying to turn it around on Saquon, saying it's like, yeah, and then we used you and we threw you out. You served a purpose. You were never meant to be in this brotherhood of Dark State. And they kept going back and forth. And so Saquon promised Dion that he would show him, why he's in this business. And what I really loved about this is that Saquon used the real life stuff. Well, both of them used real life information. Dion Lennox calling Saquon by his independent wrestling name at one point in this promo. Saquon talking about how he's the only real wrestler in Dark State, as the other three are athletes learning to wrestle. Saquon is an actual been wrestling, been grinding on the independents, and he's going to show Dion Lennox why Saquon Sugars is the only wrestler in Dark State. I do feel that the segment went on a little too long, but I am excited to see this match at Great American Bash. And I thought both of them did really good on the mic. And yeah, again, I really love to see this and I'm looking forward to this match. We get a pre-tape promo leading into a backstage segment where we have Miles Bourne and Tavion Heights talk about their upcoming NXT North American Championship match at Great American Bash, with Miles Bourne feeling a little torn because he and Tavion are tight and it feels like he's losing a brother in all of this. While Tavion feels that Miles, once he won the championship, he got left behind. And so now he's going to be selfish and he'll going to get this. We cut backstage with Tavion watching this pre-tape, and Ren Sinclair comes up and tells Tavion is that it's not too late for him and Miles to still have a friendship. And Tavion's like, it's easy for you to say you got a championship. What do I got? Which causes Tavion to leave. And then we end the segment with Kendall Gray coming in talking to Ren, and they go back and forth and they basically conclude that, Ren specifically states that she's going to make it her mission. So by the end of Great American Bash on Sunday, her and Ren will be walking out as champions and they will both be holding gold in the Ren QCC. I don't actually think that either one of them is going to be walking out as champion. So we're going to see how this turns out. But predictions will be coming up at the very end of the show. Next up, we have a tag team match set for us here. We have Hank and Tank being accompanied by comedian Matthews. And Tank and Tank were taking on Birthright, this time in the form of Uriah Connors and Stax. I thought this match was okay. It wasn't necessarily a barn burner, but I love Hank and Tank. Woo, excuse me, I had to sneeze real quick. I really like Hank and Tank. I don't know what we're trying to do with Birthright because they'll pick up wins, but then they're also been on a losing streak for a good chunk of the time too. I've seen some other people talk about how they're playing in Birthright's face and that they shouldn't be losing. But I feel like because we don't really have too much of a solid direction for them, that's the only plan that they have. But Birthright would try to go after Matt Matthews, which then would allow, the comedian things that are happening with Lexis King missing the attack. And then Charlie Dempsey being tricked into Lexis King's nard. Hank and Tank would take advantage of the chaos and ultimately they would pick up the victory here. So I love seeing Hank and Tank. I'm really hoping, and we're going to talk about it a little bit. I'm really hoping that we're going to start reestablishing our NXT tag team division because the last time we saw the tag team championships be defended, at least at a pay-per-view, was back in April for Stand and Deliver. So here's hoping that we kind of refresh and we kind of give a direction for the men's tag team division specifically. After the match, though, we cut backstage where Shiloh Hill makes it official. He's not done with Tristan Angels. And now that he's medically clear, he's going to make Tristan's life a living nightmare. So Shiloh Hill challenges Tristan Angels, and we get it made official that it will be Shiloh Hill versus Tristan Angels at the Great American Bash. So I'm pretty sure this is going to be, technically, this is the third match because we had a match between Tristan and Shiloh. Then we had the Mr. NXT pageant. And now I think we're going to get the rubber match here. I'll make my predictions at the very end of the show. But Shiloh Hill's not done with Tristan, and this should be a fun match. We get the contract signing between NXT Women's Champion Lola Vice and challenger Kendall Gray. They go back and forth, and Kendall talks to. It boils down to this. Kendall tells Lola that she admires her, that she's pushed the women's division so far and that she has raised the bar of what the women in this sport, in this locker room can do. But come Great American Bash, Kendall is going to surpass Lola's bar and then raise it even higher. Lola does a compliment sandwich. She talks about how amazing Kendall is and how she is going to do amazing things in NXT, but not at the expense of Lola Vice. And come Sunday, Lola is going to be walking out and showing Kendall why she is the NXT Women's Champion. This has been an interesting build up to this point. I am looking forward to this match. I know a lot of people want to see Kendall win, but I am rooting for Lola to still be our NXT Women's Champion. I feel like she still has I feel like we haven't really seen a big run from Lola, so I am hoping that Lola will retain, but we'll see what happens come Sunday. We get into our next match, which is EK Prosper versus Keanu Carver. Last week, and for the last couple of weeks, Keanu has been wanting a shot at the NXT championship, and he doesn't care who, but he will go through people if he has to. EK Prosper is tired of the disrespect, especially Keanu's thinking that he can go through EK. And EK and him had a little bit of a verbal spat last week, which then prompted Mr. GM Robert Stone to make this match. And I have to say, this was a pretty good match. I think EK Prosper shows a lot of promise. Keanu Carver has been growing on me. I think he is fantastic. He brings a ferocity to this division that is not really seen. And Keanu, for the most part, has the offense until EK ekes out a win with a roll up. But unfortunately, even though EK won the battle, Keanu Carver would end up winning the war because Keanu Carver would then attack EK after the match and he would choke slam him through the table. So even though EK Prosper on the record defeated Keanu Carver, unfortunately, Keanu would end up getting the last laugh and EK has been put through the table. And who's to see? I hope that this is the start of a feud which will allow us to see Keanu and EK go back and forth because I feel like EK has been lost in the shuffle a little bit between our evolved talent that have, been called over to NXT. I mean, we're seeing Shawn Legacy and Dorian Van Dukes get a little bit more screen time. I'm hoping this means that we get to see more of EK. And honestly, I think this would also be a substantial feud for Keanu Carver because Keanu has been kind of just fighting people left and right. I would like to see a proper feud for him while he makes his way to that championship or even an NXT North American championship match. And I thought this was a really good match between these two. Next, we get a pre-tape promo from Zarya, who compares her and Tatum Paxley's journey that they both have stepped out of the shadows of their former friends, with Zarya stepping out of Sol Ruka's shadow and Tatum Paxley kind of stepping out of the shadow of both Lyra Valkyria and Izzy Dame. And both of them have a similar path. Where it differs, though, is that both of them are addicted. Zarya is addicted to maintaining this championship, and Tatum is addicted to the pain that is associated with wrestling. And so Zarya accepts Tatum Paxley's proposal, and she accepts a NXT Women's North American Championship match for the Great American Bash this Sunday. And she's going to show Tatum what pain truly means. So this should be a really fun match. Very interesting. We didn't really get to see anything from Tatum, like no response from her, but I am looking forward to this match on Sunday. Everything has kind of broken loose. GM Robert Stone wanted things to go peacefully tonight, but Robert Stone finds Naraku and Mr. Stone tells Naraku that he should suspend him for his actions. Narako said that he won't because then he won't have an NXT championship match at the Great American Bash. So Naraku thinks he has it all figured out and that he's going to get what he wants. And as if that wasn't bad enough, Keanu Carver then comes in and gets in Robert Stone's face talking about how he's tired of all the people jumping in front of the line to get this NXT championship match. He wants to know when it's his time and he don't care who, but he going to go through everybody until he gets that match. And then Robert Stone says, "All right, we'll see about that." So very interesting development. I honestly think that Keanu probably going to get some title match or something by the end of the summer, but we'll see how that goes because we got a lot of people running around the championship scene real right now. After this, though, we get into our next match, which is a number one contenders match in the WWE Women's Speed Tournament. This is the finals, which sees Izzy Dame versus Ariana Grace. Now, Izzy has the upper hand in this match, but because of Shawn Spears wanting to give Izzy a high five, she is hesitant, but then she does. And unfortunately, that is enough of a distraction for Ariana Grace to win with the surprise roll up, which again, we had a lot of roll up pins this episode. So I was very interested to see how many matches used it. And Ariana Grace will be moving on and she will be facing Ren Sinclair at the Great American Bash for the WWE Women's Speed Championship. Now, the calling is already falling apart right now because Izzy is not happy with Sean. Nico Vance is not happy with Shawn Spears. And this will come to a head a little bit later when we get that tag team match. But we're going to talk about that in a little bit because right now we are backstage where we hear from Robert Stone that he just got off the phone with AAA general manager Ray Bill, and it is confirmed that we will be getting some AAA stars in attendance at the Great American Bash this Sunday. So I don't know if that means that we're going to get some AAA folks parking it in NXT for a little bit, but it's going to be interesting. After that announcement, though, we had the Vanity Project crew roll in. So Jackson Drake, Brad Baylor, Ricky Smoke, and Micah. Jackson wants to know how come the NXT Tag Team Championships aren't being defended at the Great American Bash, and also how come Vanity Project isn't getting a shot at the NXT Men's Championship? Which Robert Stone blows it off and says, "I don't have time for this," which would come back because it seems that we are setting up some things happening in a little bit. So we roll right into our next match, which is the tag team match, which sees Sean Legacy and Dorian Van Dukes taking on the Colleen, so Shawn Spears and Nico Vance. Very fun match, but again, I don't know, Shawn Spears was trying to do too much, and unfortunately, that was the downfall for the Colleen as Sean Legacy and Dorian Van Dukes do pick up the victory here. Now, afterwards, Izzy, Dame, Nico Vance, and Shawn Spears are all in the ring. They're talking, and this is officially it. It's been brewing for weeks, but we finally got it. Nico Vance choke slams Shawn Spears through a table, and thus Shawn Spears has been kicked out of the Colleen. So I'm very interested to see where this goes with Izzy and Nico being a pair and what is going to happen with Shawn Spears. But Shawn has done too much. And we finally reached a breaking point. So we're going to see how this turns out. We get to the main event segment of this particular episode of NXT. Robert Stone is in the ring. He's about to report what our match is going to be for the NXT Championship at Great American Bash. Naraku interrupts and says that because there is no body left for this championship, that Robert Stone should give Naraku the title, which then prompts Mason Rook to come out and interrupt and state that there is no way that Naraku is going to just be handed that title. And so he will fight Naraku for the championship. Then we get the Vanity Project crew to come out and interrupt. Jackson Drake also makes a case for him to get a shot at the NXT championship. And so Mason Rook and Jackson Drake end up fighting through the crowd. Naraku and Robert Stone are still in the ring. Naraku once again demands that since there is no challenger for the NXT championship, that Robert Stone needs to give it to him. Robert Stone says this, "Oh no, the match is still happening and your opponent is going to be this man," which sees Tony D'Angelo bandaged, bleeding, all red from the fireball to the face from earlier in the show. Him and Naraku fight. Naraku scrapes the eye, which is enough of a distraction for him to get out of the ring. And we have a stare down of Tony D'Angelo and Naraku to end the NXT broadcast. So that is the review portion of that's the post show portion of NXT. Overall, I thought this was a pretty decent go home show. Again, we finalized all the card for Great American Bash, which right now is standing at 7 matches. So that's going to be happening this Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. There were some things I feel like there were some things that I had a little bit of an issue with. I feel that this particular episode, there was a lot of backstage promos. We did a lot of setup for things to come. But I am excited, and I thought this was a pretty decent episode of NXT Go Home. I really like the Saquon Sugars and Dion Lennox promo off. Really fun story. Evil is officially in NXT, so Naraku has turned heel. We got Mason Rooks taking on Jackson Drake and the Vanity Project crew, probably coming up after Great American Bash. Finalized all our matches. But yeah, so that is the review portion of our show. Now, let us move on to Act 2. So now what we are going to do, or at least what I am going to do right now, is we are going to, or I am going to, I say we because I'm used to having my co-host here. I am going to be making my predictions for this Sunday's NXT Great American Bash PL. So the Great American Bash is coming to us live from the Performance Center in Orlando. And I don't know if Kilt is going to the Great American Bash. I hope he is because it is within the area, but we shall see how that turns out, honestly. So, should be some good stuff. But the way that predictions work here at BC WrestlePod is that we are now currently in season 2 of our predictions league. So, what that means is that for NXT, our prediction season goes from it goes from the first PLE after Stand and Deliver, which is Great American Bash, and so for the season 2 predictions league, we will be going back from here from Great American Bash all the way to next year's Stand and Deliver. So this is going to be interesting. We're going to have a good time. We are going to be doing a post show for Great American Bash, but it will not be happening until 2 weeks time as I will be on vacation, so to speak, next week. So when I come back from vacation, Kilt and I will be here to do a post show for Great American Bash, and then we'll also talk about quickly the NXT episode that's going to be happening next Tuesday. But without further ado, let's get into our predictions. So we have 7 matches to talk about. So I am really going to quickly talk about the match, how we got here, and my prediction, and why I think that. So we're going to start out. These matches are in no particular order. So I am actually we're going to start with Shiloh Hill versus Tristan Angels. Again, this match has been made official for Great American Bash. And the story as how we got to this match is that the last couple of weeks, Tristan Angels and Shiloh Hill have been fighting about, technically speaking, who is the better man and who should represent the NXT brand. Thus, we had a match. Then that led to the Mr. NXT pageant in which Shiloh Hill won. Tristan Angels, being a sore loser, would attack Shiloh Hill. And thus, Shiloh would get a little bit of a payback from distracting and costing Tristan Angels his match against Aaron Rourke in this week's episode for the Men's Evolve Championship. And thus, technically speaking, I feel like this is the rubber match. Now, I am going to go with Shiloh Hill because I think ultimately, I think that NXT really loves him as a babyface. I don't foresee like the most optimal route to keep this feud going. I think that this was a nice, smaller feud for Shiloh and Tristan. And I'm going to go with Shiloh Hill on this one. I think that ultimately he's going to win this after getting attacked by Tristan at the end of the Mr. NXT pageant. And I think that this should be it. And I'm hoping that we could see Shiloh and Tristan move on to different things. But I'm locking in Shiloh Hill for this match. Next one is the match between Saquon Sugars and Dion Lennox. Again, this is kind of a grudge match. And how we got here is that after unsuccessfully being able to gain the NXT Tag Team Championships against the Vanity Project boys. Dark State, specifically Dion Lennox, Osiris, and Mr. Curtis, so to speak, or Cutler, I should speak, not Curtis. They threw Saquon Sugars out of Dark State. They power bombed him through the table. And over the last couple of weeks, Saquon has been taking out the rest of the members of Dark State. He took out Cutler, he took out Osiris, which left him and Saquon wanted a match with Dion Lennox at Great American Bash. Dion accepted. We got the promo between the two of them this week in the ring, and we are going to have this match at Great American Bash. Now, in all honesty, Dion is probably slated to win this because I think that we're going to continue this feud. But man, I've been really behind Saquon Sugar, so I am going to go with Saquon here for this match. I think Saquon has more momentum winning this match than losing it. If they are going to extend this feud throughout the rest of the summer, then I can definitely see them giving it to Dion, but I'm going to go with Saquon because I think Saquon should win this one, honestly. And I think it would do really good for him to win this match. Alrighty. Next up, we're going to talk about this one. This is the WWE Women's Speed Championship. So this is going to be Ren Sinclair defending the WWE Women's Speed title against Ariana Grace, who has officially won this number one contenders tournament and thus has earned the right to this match. Now, I love Ren to death. However, because it's Ariana Grace and knowing all the shenanigans that Birthright does, I actually am going to go with Ariana here. I think that her and Kendall, who I'm going to talk about when we get to that match, I think her and Kendall are not going to be walking out as champions. So I actually am going to go with Ariana Grace to become the new WWE Speed Women's Champion. Next up, we have our Women's North American Championship match. So this is a rematch. Zarya, who took the title off of Tatum Paxley not too long ago, about 2 weeks ago, is having a rematch against Tatum Paxley. And as much as I would love to Tatum to get this title back, I think it is officially Zarya's time now for a championship run in NXT. So as much as it hurts me to bet against Tatum Paxley, I am going to pick Zarya to retain here. I think that we just have gotten started with her championship reign. And so I think that defeating Tatum is a really good way to start that off because you put down the person you took it from in the contractual, rematch obligation. And I think we're going to see Zarya run this division for for the next couple of months or so. So I got Zarya retaining the championship here. Speaking of North American Championship matches, we now move on to the men's one, which is a match I'm really looking forward to. Miles Bourne versus Tavion Heights. So after the last couple of weeks with Miles and Tavion kind of teaming together a little bit, and Tavion becoming the number one contender after beating Jackson Drake, this match and this is built upon, two friends, two brothers that have been torn apart by everything. Tavion feels like he's been left in the dust. Miles feels like he's lost a friend because of the championship. And I think this is going to be a really good match. Now, I do believe that Tavion should be the one to take the title off of Miles, but I do not think it should be now. I think Tavion should take it off of Miles down the road. So I have Miles Bourne retaining the championship here. I do think Tavion should be the next NXT Men's North American Champion, but I don't see him taking the title on this one. I could see it maybe at like a No Mercy or a Halloween Havoc, but I think Miles still has some juice left in the tank as North American champion. But again, honestly, I am okay with whoever walks out as champion because I think both of them equally deserve it. I will be happy if Miles Bourne retains. I would be happy if Tavion becomes the new champion. To me, this is one of the only matches where I feel is a win-win. But I am going to lock in Miles Bourne here because I think we still have some couple of plans left for him, in my personal opinion. Now we get into our two main title matches. First, we're going to talk about the NXT Women's Championship. The challenger being Kendall Gray, who won a number one contendership match, and the champion, Miss Lola Vice. We've kind of seen them go back and forth on the mic. Kendall ready to take the title, and Lola saying that Kendall needs to be humble because she, like Icarus, she is flying too close to the sun. I think this is going to be a really good match. And again, this is kind of a rematch from Stand and Deliver, but because that match was a triple threat where it included Lola, Kendall, and JC Jade, we're getting this rematch. I love Kendall. I think she brings something really unique and fresh to the NXT women's division. However, I am going to go with Lola Vice to retain the championship here. Like I said, when I was talking about the contract signing segment between Kendall and Lola, I think we still have a lot more to go for this championship reign for Lola. So I'm going to lock in Lola Vice here to retain the NXT Women's Championship. Finally, we get into our last match, which is for the NXT Championship. This is another title that was won at Stand and Deliver. So Tony D'Angelo won the NXT Championship in the fatal four-way match that we had between him, Joe Hendry, Ethan Page, and Ricky Saints. And Tony D'Angelo ended up pinning Joe Hendry for that win. And this match, again, has been built. Mason Rook and Naraku fought for the number one contendership. Naraku won thanks to distraction from Cam Hendricks, who has been getting in Mason's business. And this whole entire time, Tony has not trusted Naraku. He knows that some shenanigans were going to come down, and this episode proved it. We officially got Naraku established as the heel and that the nice guy act is not here. And so here's the thing. I think Tony has worked really hard to become NXT champion. I ultimately think that he has deserved it and he has earned it. However, I do foresee that one of the main titles has to change hands. And I don't think Lola's title is changing hands, but I do see the NXT Men's Championship changing hands. So I'm going to go on my Nostradamus pick and just go balls to the wall with this one. I'm going to pick Naraku to become the NXT champion. I ultimately think that we need one of these championships to be a heel. And I think that between all the championship matches that we're getting, I think one of the titles has to change hands besides the Speed Championship. So I'm going to go with Naraku here. And I think that leads to a program with him and Tony wanting a rematch. And then Mason, after he's done with Jackson Drake, him and Naraku go and fight for it as well. But that, my friends, is the end of our NXT The Great American Bash predictions. Again, there's a lot of wrestling happening this weekend. Of course, Saturday, we have the Night of Champions for WWE main roster. And then Sunday, you got 3 shows. You got TNA Slammiversary happening at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. Then NXT's The Great American Bash at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. And then finally, it's AEW CMLL's New Japan Pro Wrestling and Stardom's Forbidden Door pay-per-view, which will be happening at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. So it's going to be a good time. But we are going to be back in 2 weeks for NXT, as I will be on vacation next week. But when we come back in 2 weeks, we will be covering the Great American Bash. And then we'll also be talking about the June 30th episode, I believe, of NXT in 2 weeks as well. So it's going to be a good time. I'm looking forward to it. But that is going to be it for us here at NXT Los. I will be back later this evening to talk some CMLL with Will. But until then, thank you so much for tuning in from all of us at BC Wrestle Pod to you remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay iconic, and more importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish your story. I'll see you at 8 p.m. Pacific later tonight for our CMLL post show, where we're going to be talking about Fantastica Mania. But until then, adios, and until next time.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another Vibe Tribe production. What's going to happen next time? Well, you're going to have to tune in to find out. But until then, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, make sure that you keep the good times rolling. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.